As a courtesy of those in attendance, thank you very much. So at 5:30 p.m. is our study session. SS-1, the refuse regulations presentation by Mrs. Champion.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council. Tonight, I am before you to present on the refuse regulations, AB 1826-341 and SB 1383. I do have Chris Benuelos, our refuse coordinator, in attendance as well. And then I believe Nicole Pena was to be joining us via Zoom, but earlier she was having technical difficulties. So hopefully she'll be there to answer any questions in regards to the JPA. So AB 341 was MCR, mandatory commercial recycling, and AB 1826 was mandatory commercial organics recycling. The 341 was adopted in 2012, and it was the driving force behind the creation of the bill was to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The main thing that it did was it declared it a policy goal of the state that 75% of solid waste generated be sourced, either reduced, recycled, or composted by 2020. So CalRecycle did some analysis and determined that commercial businesses are the largest generator of solid waste. So both of these bills are focused towards commercial entities. AB 1826 followed 2 years later and was adopted in 2014 to support that goal of 75% diversion, but it focused mainly on organic waste, which is your food waste, your green waste, and your landscape and pruning waste. As of December 2020, CalRecycle estimated our solid waste reduction to only be at about 37%, so only about half of this goal. How did they define a commercial entity? CalRecycle defines a commercial entity as a firm, partnership, proprietorship, a strip mall, industrial facility, school district, special district, or a multifamily dwelling of 5 or more units. Who's exempt from this? Any single family dwellings, multifamily dwellings of 4 or less units, or commercial entities that generate less than 4 cubic yards of solid waste per week. What does that look like? So AB 341 and AB 1826 require that all commercial entities generating 4 cubic yards or more solid waste per week to arrange for recycling services and organic services respectively. Most of our commercial entities have a 2 cubic yard dumpster. So any of those that have it emptied twice a week meet that threshold. For us residential customers, that's roughly about 9 of your 90-gallon cans. Also to note, for the organic recycling, the multifamily dwellings only have to divert their landscape organics, not their food waste yet. So MCR and more implementation. Implementation for the recycling happened all at once. Those regulations took effect July 2012. Implementation for the organics recycling was phased. The first 2 phases applied to our large organic generators. So most of our businesses were not affected by this bill until phase 3, which was the 4 cubic yard threshold previously shown. For phase 4, AB 1826 had a conditional clause that stated if the state did not reach 50% organic reduction by 2020, then the regulations would apply to any commercial business who generates 2 cubic yards of solid waste. CalRecycle did make the determination in September of 2020 that that goal was not met and confirmed that they would be moving forward to increase the scope of the affected businesses to include all those businesses that generate the 2 cubic yards of solid waste per week instead of the 4. So how do our businesses comply with MCR and more? They have to source separate the recyclable materials from solid waste and subscribe to a basic level of recycling. So they have to subscribe to our collection service, or they can self-haul, or it does allow for other arrangements. Other arrangements under these clauses can mean any means of diverting waste from the landfill that your jurisdiction would allow. So for example, some of our grocery stores can choose to donate some of their organic material instead of throwing it in their green bins, and that is an acceptable compliance measure for more. What do we have to do as far as MCR and more? We have to implement programs. So what does that mean? That means we have to educate our entities and we do this by posting on the city website, Facebook, and in lobbies. We have to monitor and report compliance measures to CalRecycle, and we have to reach out to those who are not in compliance. And we do this via mail and in-person contact. So it's important to note that enforcement is not built into 341 and 1826. So as with most programs, the city has to establish rates to sustain these programs. During the last refuse rate study, the city included rates for both of these programs. One thing to note is that if a business does share a landfill or recycling dumpster, which many of ours do, they only pay the proportional share of that dumpster. So logistically, if you can share a dumpster, it is beneficial to do so. So these are the rates for the recycling program. And these are the rates for the organic program. The main difference for the organics is that they are offered with a 90-gallon can. So these rates are a little bit cheaper because the can is smaller, because we think less people will have organic waste than they will recyclable waste. So any questions on MCR or more? I know that was kind of quick.
Where does the city fall within this?
The city is the one who has to implement these programs and monitor and make sure that all the businesses are complying.
I realize that, but as an entity, we contribute to waste.
Yes, we also have to comply with these measures. Yes, we do fall under one of the entities that must comply. Mm-hmm.
So when we got rid of our waste disposal site at the corporation yard on Cinnamon, what was that? Was that in regards to one of these two?
No. So are you talking about the recycling bins that were offered at the yard? So we didn't actually do away with those completely. We just modified the schedule. We were having a lot of contamination in those containers. So what we did is we take them away for 3 weeks and we bring them back out of 1 week out of the month for people to still place those blue containers. Just to reduce our contamination in those, but we do still send all of our recyclables to KWRA for recycling processing.
Is that schedule posted anywhere?
Yes, it is on our website that it's the 3rd week of every month.
But it's not on the yard anywhere. You don't see it on the yard. Is it a secret? I mean,
no, not a secret.
Well, I should just ask it. No, it's not everybody goes to the website.
If anything, we can post it on the electronic board, or we can set up one of the lighted billboards.
Okay. So we used to be there on the weekends, right?
Say again?
We used to be open on the weekends?
They used to be accessible, yes. So what was happening is we're getting a lot of illegal dumping. And so the city was paying for trash disposal instead of recycling.
Mattresses, all kinds of goofy stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do away.
Is there any way to open that up on a temporary basis with somebody there on a weekend?
So it's just be a matter of manpower.
So it can be done, it's just a matter of resources, right?
Yeah, and if you would, maybe we run it by the volunteers at the PD if they wanted to stand there.
Well, we don't need to go into how. I just,
Yeah.
it is something that we could do if we want.
If your council set us in that direction, then we would do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So any more questions on MCR or more before we get into 1383? Okay. So moving on to 1383, there's no cute acronym or name. It's reducing short-lived climate pollutants in California. I fondly refer to it as 1383. So you may notice from here on out that the slides will look a lot prettier. That's because I borrowed most of them from CalRecycle, but they don't mind. So SB 1383 is a bill for organic waste reduction and was adopted in 2016. Previous goals only pertain to the reduction of all solid waste materials. This bill mandated CalRecycle to create regulations and goals for organic food recycling and recovery specifically to address not only greenhouse gas emissions, but also to address the food insecure in California. And they state that 1 in 8 Californians and 1 in 5 children are food insecure, which means they may not know where their next meal is coming from. These percentages and figures for the tonnage, their goals of tonnage reduction is based off of the 2014 baseline disposal rates. So key implementation dates. SB 1383 was adopted at the end of 2016. CalRecycle had 2 years of informal rulemaking from 2017 to 2018. They expected only 1 year of formal rulemaking in 2019 and to adopt the final bill in early 2020. We received the final regulation text in November of 2020, so a little bit later than anticipated. Fun fact, it's 127 pages front and back. 2021 was meant for exactly what we're doing tonight, preparing and educating local leadership on about 1833, because on January 1st, 2022, regulations take effect. In 2022 and 2023, though you can consider those your grace periods because jurisdictions are educating the public and noticing violators, but without penalty during that time. In 2024, we must start enforcing penalties. So this is an overview of all the different components to SB 1383. By 2022, we have to have several ordinances in place. Staff will be coming back to you in the near future with those ordinances. We must provide organics to all residents and businesses, conduct annual education and outreach, and we must procure a predetermined amount of recovered organic product and start planning for future recycling and recovery needs. And then again in 2024, we have to start taking enforcement. So we'll be going over each one of these components in detail. The most basic element of the regulation is that jurisdictions are required to provide organic waste collection service to each of their residents and businesses. This differs from 1826 in that it now applies to all businesses, no more thresholds, and our residential customers. Luckily, we already have a residential 3-can system in place. However, we will need to educate our citizens that all food organics must now go into our green container. We will be required to label all of our new cans and lids with information regarding what is allowed in each can. And the city will be required to do route reviews to check for container contamination and notify customers when we do find contamination. I'll briefly touch on waivers. CalRecycle has approved 2 types of waivers for this regulation and that we as a city may regulate. The first one is a de minimis waiver. So if businesses generate less than a certain amount of organic waste, they may request a de minimis waiver, or if there's a physical space waiver. So if there's just not enough physical space for all of these containers, they may request a waiver for that. One large component of 1383 is the edible food recovery program that we have to establish. And in order to understand what that means, CalRecycle has given us some new terminology to become familiar with. First, we have to identify our available food recovery organizations, which are the entities that collect and distribute edible food. So for example, your food banks. Then we must determine how much edible food they can handle or process, which will be known as their existing food recovery capacity. Once we determine our capacity, we have to analyze if it is enough for our commercial edible food generators needs. So how do we identify our commercial food generators? They can be identified within 2 tiers. The first tier could be a supermarket, a large grocery store, a food service provider, or a wholesale food provider. A tier 2, which is where most of our entities are going to fall, would be a restaurant, a hotel, a large venue or event, or a local education agency. Once identified, these commercial edible food generators must develop contracts or agreements with recovery food organizations or services to recover their edible food. Tier 1 must comply by January 1st of 2022, and Tier 2 must comply by January 1st of 2024. Last, we must also ensure commercial edible food generators have access to food recovery services. So basically the people that get the food from the grocery store to the food bank. And we have to educate our generators on this program annually. So talking about education requirements. Prior to February 1 of 2022 and annually thereafter, jurisdictions must provide either through print or media information on how to correctly sort their materials, how to prevent organic waste, the benefits of organic recycling, how to recover edible food, and any self-hauling requirements that we might implement. We typically do this through billing inserts, through our city website, and through Facebook, along with printed materials available in our lobbies. We also must provide these in English and Spanish. Procurement requirements. So each jurisdiction will have to procure recovered organic waste product. Some examples are listed here. And we will have a minimum procurement target determined by our population. We can decide what mix of these items that we want to utilize in order to fulfill our requirement. CalRecycle has published a tool to calculate how much product each jurisdiction must procure each year. The factor used was 0.08 tons per California resident. And based on the California Department of Finance population figures, the city would need to procure roughly 2,120 tons of recovered organic waste product annually. We plan to do that through compost, mulch, and our CNG renewable fuel. So public contract code already regulates that we must also purchase recycled paper goods when it is cost efficient to do so. SB 1383 just adds labeling and certifying requirements that the city must ensure our vendors comply with, and we have to keep records of all of our purchases for recycled paper products. Infrastructure requirements. So counties in coordination with local jurisdictions will be required to plan for additional organic waste recycling capacity. So in order to do that, you have to estimate the amount of all the organic waste that's going to be disposed in the county. Then you must identify the amount of organic waste that we can currently and verifiably process and compare the two. And then we have to plan to shore up if there's a gap between them. The community outreach is a specific requirement for locations being considered for new or expanded facilities, ensuring that gap. Similar processes will need to be done to plan for edible food recovery capacity. So again, you're going to estimate the amount of edible food that will be disposed by your generators within the county, identify how much of that edible food can currently be processed, and if necessary, prepare to have new or expanded organizations to shore that gap. If a county finds that it will require more capacity for recovered edible food, then each jurisdiction within that county has to provide CalRecycle with an implementation schedule that will demonstrate how it will ensure there's going to be enough new or expanded capacity for the recovered food. Inspection and enforcement requirements. By January 1st, 2022, jurisdictions are required to have an enforcement mechanism or ordinance in place and an inspection program developed. So, and then between 2022 and 2023, jurisdictions are going to be performing route reviews and inspections, identifying businesses in violation and giving them educational material without any penalties. So during that first 2 years, remember, it's a grace period. After January 2024, we must take progressive enforcement against the organic waste generators that are not in compliance by issuing violations with penalties. We'll get more into the violations in just a minute. Starting in January 2022, we have to perform compliance reviews for all accounts for all of our businesses that generate 2 or more cubic yards of waste. This can be a desk audit review to review reports from our systems to verify what services everyone is receiving. We do a similar review right now for AB 341 and AB 1826. Then starting in April of 2022, we have to perform route reviews. So basically we're going to go in the field and we're going to verify all the information that we previously looked up in our system for the accounts. Then we have to monitor also for contamination again on randomly selected containers in our residential routes. So for the edible food recovery program, something new is going to be inspections required for our jurisdiction. We have to go and inspect our tier 1 and our tier 2 edible food generators and make sure that they are complying with all the mandates of this bill. We will verify that they have arrangements with a food recovery organization, and we will verify that they are not intentionally spoiling food that can be recovered. Let's see. Inspections start for the tier 1s in 2022 and for the tier 2 generators in 2024. So we talked about those violations. The city must adopt an enforcement ordinance or mechanism to impose the penalties listed. Once we give a notice of violation, we have to require compliance within 60 days of that. And the notice of violation shall include the name of the account, the factual description of the violation, the compliance date, and the penalty for not complying by the date provided. The first violation is $50 to $100. The second violation is $100 to $200. And the third or more is $250 to $500 per violation. And those rates are set by Cal Recycle, not by us. And if we as a jurisdiction fail to enforce our regulations, Cal Recycle can and will issue us a notice of violation and will also come in and start violating our entities. So if we don't do what we're supposed to, Cal Recycle is going to come in and do it for us, basically. Side note, I believe canned contaminants are excluded from this provision. So we talked about record keeping briefly. This bill is very heavy on the record keeping requirements. They will require that each jurisdiction have an implementation record, that it be stored in one central location. It can be kept as a physical or digital copy, and it needs to be accessible to Cal Recycle staff within 10 business days, and needs to be retained for 5 years. Some of the things that we need to report on are for our organic waste collection, a description of the 3-can method that we use for compliance. For our contamination minimization, we have to document our route reviews, keep copies of all of our notices that we issue to generators, and document how many containers had to be disposed of due to contamination. We have to keep track and record of all of our waivers that we issue. We have to keep track of all of our education and outreach materials, copies of all the flyers and brochures that we distribute, records of any social media postings, listing of all the direct contacts that's made, and the dates of the information when it was shared, distributed, and to whom. For the edible food recovery program, we have to keep a list of all the commercial edible food generators that have contracts or written agreements. We have to keep a list of all our food recovery organizations and services within our jurisdiction and their edible food recovery capacity. We have to document the actions that we take to increase our edible food capacity. For our recycled organic waste procurement, we have to keep record of all of our invoices and similar records for the materials that we procure, as well as all of our recycled paper, copies of all of those invoices and all the certifications. We have to verify that commercial edible food generators are keeping their records. They have to maintain lists of the food recovery services that they utilize, copies of their contracts, and records of what types of food that will be recovered, the quantity, and how often it will be recovered. So lots, very heavy on the record keeping component of this bill. So our reporting requirements, that's everything we have to keep records. So then we have to report it to Cal Recycle. City staff reports on all the activities previously covered, and it's pretty interactive with Cal Recycle staff. Staff will typically give preliminary numbers and hold phone conferences and site visits with Cal Recycle. So this is not a report that you submit and nobody looks at, kind of gets filed away. Cal Recycle is actively watching our progress and very engaged in this. Our initial compliance is due April 1st, 2022. Then our annual reporting will be due in October initially, and then in August annually after. And then we have to do those planning reports for the new or expanded organic recycling facilities and edible food recovery facilities. Those are going to be 5-year plans. So future capacity, we have to do reports for those every 5 years. So state enforcement, Cal Recycle will be evaluating a jurisdiction's compliance. So they're going to be making sure that we are providing the service to all of our organic generators, that we are providing education, and that we are issuing notices of violation within the correct timeline. So under SB 1383, if Cal Recycle determines that a jurisdiction is violating one or more of these requirements, we can be noticed and we have 90 days to correct it. For larger violations, there is like things that are out of our control. We can be placed on a corrective action plan, and then we have 2 years to correct those violations. Penalties amounts for jurisdictions are much greater than those for the entities. For a minor violation, it's between $500 and $4,000 per day. For a moderate violation, it's between $4,000 and $7,500 per day. And for a major violation, it's between $7,500 and $10,000 per day. Some of the factors used to determine where we would fall within that range if we were cited for a violation would be the nature and the circumstance, the ability to pay, and the willfulness of the violation. So ending on a fun point, that concludes my presentation on SB 1383. I know it was a lot of information to throw at you, but does anybody have any questions?
I have one question just for my clarification. What is the difference between a tier 1 and a tier 2? Is that just the amount of?
So no, they have different regulations. So tier 1s are going to be supermarkets, grocery stores, food service providers, whereas tier 2s are going to be restaurants, hotels, large venues, and your education facilities.
Okay.
Any other questions?
One more question. Is there any way we can get those slides emailed to us?
Yeah.
That was a lot of information.
There was a lot of information. Marissa will have the slides, and they will also be posted on the website for the public as well.
Perfect.
I can also send you the whole text. It's only 127 pages. It's light reading. All right.
We haven't started none of this yet.
It's all in the works.
It's all working.
Oh yeah, it's all coming. So this was adopted in 2016, but what was adopted was just the direction to create the regulation. These start in 2022. So in short, 9 months.
Good luck.
And just for the public's knowledge, these are all unfunded mandates from the state. So with all this extra requirements, the reporting, the software we're going to need, equipment, there is no help coming from the state on this mandate.
No grants or no nothing?
Pardon me?
No grants?
We get some Cal Grant stuff for cans every year, about $6,000 or $8,000, but right now that's all I'm aware of, and we'll dig into it. But yeah, this is pretty much all an unfunded mandate.
And how much do you think this mandate's going to cost us? Rough.
Well,
Extreme rough.
I'm not prepared to give that yet. There's things in the works through KWRA that might be able to help all the cities out, the things we can do through the JPA, and all that stuff's being ironed out. So we're hoping that works to reduce the impact of cost for us. So, I mean, our basic expense would be if we had to go hire another like full-time compliance person for this role, which Hanford's already done, but I've been talking to them about potentially an MOU to share that person if we can figure out a way to make it work. So I'd say worst case would be a full-time compliance person. So you're probably talking 60, 70,000 loaded. That's just ballpark, so don't hold me to that.
No.
Plus publications and the notices, that stuff goes out, that can add another $10,000, $15,000 in mailers. So, but we're on it. It's a lot to get your arms around, but Amanda and the team have been doing an awesome job.
Sounds like it. So 100 grand's not probably a too far number.
I would say that gets us in the ballpark. Yeah.
Seems like it could be a COVID expense, huh?
We'd have to look at the new act that came out and see.
So you throw everything in there you want.
Well, thank you, Mrs.
All
Champion.
right, no more
Thank you very
questions.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next thing on our agenda here is closed session. These items have been set aside for city council to meet in a closed session to discuss matters pursuant to government code section 54956.9 D4. The city attorney will provide an oral report regarding the closed session at the beginning of the next regular city council meeting. 1, conference for labor negotiator, government code section 54957.6, agency designated representatives, Mary Lerner, city attorney, and Michelle Spear, assistant city manager. Employee organization, general associate of service employees, Lemoore Police Officers Association, Lemoore Police Sergeants Unit, Police Professional Service Bargaining Unit, and unrepresented. 2, liability claim, government code section 54956.95. Claimant is Mr. Ulysses Vega. The agency claim against is the city of Lemoore. So we are in closed session. Standing for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Dearly Father, Lord, we come before you tonight and we thank you for an opportunity to meet, Lord. And again, as we seek you, just grant wisdom upon the board members, Lord. We thank you for each of them and their willingness just to serve the community. Pray that you would have your hand upon the city of Lemoore. prayed for protection for the citizens, prayed for protection for our frontline workers, the police department, the fire department, those in the healthcare area. Just continue to sustain them and provide for them, Lord. And again, we just seek you throughout this time, help all decisions just to be done with wisdom and for the betterment of the city as a whole, Lord. And again, we honor you and ask your presence here in this meeting today. In your name we pray these things. Amen.
Amen. Ready? Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor John. So roll call.
Good evening. Councilmember Orth,
Here.
Councilmember Gornick,
Here.
Councilmember Cheney,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Matthews,
Here.
Mayor Lyons.
Oh, I'm here. What an accomplishment. Okay, so next we have a closed session report.
Nothing to report, Mayor and Council.
Okay. And agenda approval and additions and or deletions? None? Okay, now we have a public comment. Public comment will be in accordance with the attached policy. This time is reserved for members of the audience to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda and are within the subject matter of jurisdiction of the council. It is recommended that the speaker limit their comments to 3 minutes each and is requested that no comments be made during this period of time on the agenda. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda. Prior to addressing the council, any handouts for council will be provided to city clerk for distribution to the council and appropriate staff. So does anybody have any public comments?
Good evening.
Good.
My name is Dwight Young. I'm attempting to open a food establishment in the downtown area. I've contacted the planning department about a month and a half ago. All I need is an answer, and I can't seem to get one. It's a relatively simple answer to a question that I would rather not discuss an open session. But if you could contact maybe someone in the planning department, they're quite sure, they understand and they know what the problem is.
Okay, what was your name? It's
Dwight.
hard to hear you. Could you speak into the mic a little?
Dwight
Dwight?
Young, Y-O-U-N-G.
Dwight Young.
Yes, sir. I was working with Christy Bailey. If you can contact her, she's full aware of the situation that I'm in.
I don't know if it's just me, but I can barely hear you. You know what? Take your mask off while you're at the podium.
And you can raise the mic up a little.
Yeah, that thing moves. There you
There you
go.
go.
Okay,
No,
is this better?
Much
Yes,
better.
Much
much.
better.
Okay, so I'm attempting to open up a food establishment in the city of Lemoore, downtown area. I've been working with or attempting to work with the planning department to receive a answer to a question. I've been doing that for the last month and a half with no results. So I'm hoping that the council members can contact the planning department to find out how long it will take before I can get an answer. Christy
Okay.
Bailey is the lady that I was working with. I would rather not discuss the detail in open.
Okay, that's fine.
Session.
Do you have a contact? Oh,
Christy
wait.
Bailey?
No, for you.
Oh, yes, 559.
There you go.
That's fine.
Okay.
559-901-0019.
0019.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, available times?
Anytime is fine.
Okay.
You don't need to respond.
What is called?
It's not appropriate.
Is there any other public comment? Marissa, are we still doing public comment, mail-ins and
Email.
emails? Okay. Okay, so. Okay, so ceremonial presentations, seeing none, we'll move on to department and city manager reports.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. First up tonight is Ms. Judy Hallwell.
Good evening, council. I'm going to bring that down. Just wanted to give you a quick update. We are going to have a planning commission meeting on April 12th. We've got 2 items on that agenda. One is the Johnny Quick project, which is out at the west side, Bush and Bellhaven. And then the other one is Helena Chemicals, which is also out on the west side. And then the Cashin general plan amendment from Parks and Recreation to professional office. That's at 19.5 Avenue over here at Cedar Lane, 9.1 acres. That's going to be coming to you at your next council meeting.
Thank you.
When is that planning meeting again? I'm sorry.
April 12th at 7 p.m.
You almost ran out of time. That yellow light was on.
Well, that was for the last. Okay, Mr. Frank Rivera.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Just want to update you on our water treatment plant
Hey, Frank,
project.
while you're at the podium, go
hold it
ahead.
up,
There
okay.
you go.
At our, in regards to our water treatment plant projects, we did receive the okay from DDW to start the load media and basically start the testing process within the plant itself. Within that time, we're gonna be working on a commissioning plan, load and media. So hopefully in the next 4 weeks, we will get rolling on the testing and startup process, and then get it ready to have DDW show up to prove the test. So it was good news to hear that they allowed us to move a step closer to getting this online. So just want to update you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and then I have just a couple brief things. One, staff's working on first round of budgets are just about completed. So they've been working diligently on that with the various departments. We're still looking at new software for finance. We still have we've been doing online trainings with the different modules that are in there. So we're still working through that. And then I'm out of the office this week on court on behalf of the city. So not available much during the day. So I just wanted to give you that update. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, we're consent calendar. Items considered routine in nature are placed on the consent calendar. They will be considered and voted upon as one vote, as one item, unless a council member or a member of the public requests individual consideration. So would council like to pull any items off of, let's read them first, huh? 3-1, approval of minutes, regular meeting, March 2nd, 2021. 3-2, approval of second reading, ordinance 2021-01, amending section 4A to the Lemoore Municipal Code relating to pursuant uses and zoning for commercial cannabis operations, amending section 4-8-7E of the Lemoore Municipal Code related to grounds for denial of an employee permit. 3-3, approval, resolution 2021-05, regarding public transit needs within the city of Lemoore and authorizing the filing of a claim for Transportation Development Act funds. 3-4, approval or denial of claim for, approval of denial of claim for Mr. Ulysses Vega. So would anybody on council like to pull any items? Seeing none, I'm going to open it to public. Would anyone in the public like to pull any of the consent calendar items? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to council. I'll entertain a motion at this time to accept consent calendar.
So move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay.
Second.
So Mr. Gornick and Mrs. Matthews. Mr. Gornick.
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews.
Yes.
Mr. Orth.
Yes.
And Mr. Cheney.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Consent calendar passes. So now going on to public hearing, section 4-1, Public hearing, this is going to be the first reading resolution 2021-06 and ordinance 2021-02, approving plan unit development number 2020-03, Fairway Courtyards, tentative subdivision map number 2020-02, and major site plan review number 2020-05. Mr. Brandt.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Steve Brandt, city planner, and I'm going to present the staff report on this project tonight. This is a request for approval of a development project that would build 29 units on a 4.5 acre site. These would be 29 single-family residential homes. Besides the 29 homes, there would be 3 outlots, one of them containing a park, another one a parking area, and then the third one ponding basin for the site. The site's located on about 400 feet south of Iona Avenue on the east side of Vine Street. Let me go to the next slide. So this aerial photo shows the location. It's just north of the south half of the golf course, right there on the east side of Vine Street. Go to the next slide. You can see the site was previously approved for a development project, a slightly different version of the project that had 4-plex units with 0 lot line lots. So that project got far enough along that the subdivision was actually created, and so there are actually, all those lots are actually there, and there is some infrastructure built in the site. The sewer and water and curb and gutter is in, as well as some hydrants and some electrical boxes. So there's some existing infrastructure that can be retained and used for this new site. And for that reason, the new proposed project has a very similar design, but just the number of lots are less, and now the homes are all single family homes. Go to the next slide. So this slide shows the zoning for the area. So the site is zoned low, medium residential. And then if you go to the next slide, in order to approve the project, there's 3 components. There's a planned unit development, or PUD, and that approves the size of the lots, the building setbacks, and the street widths. And that is because all of those are not to our normal city standard. The street is a little narrower than typical city standard. The lot sizes are smaller, and the building setbacks are different. And the zoning ordinance does allow the council to approve modifications like this through the PUD process, which is what we're asking you to do tonight. Second component is the tentative subdivision map that would re-subdivide the site into the 29 lots and the 3 outlots. And then the third portion is the major site plan review, which approves the overall site plan, park, the basin, everything, and then also the general design of the home plans. So this shows the PUD site plan. As you can see, the roadway is still the same to be able to use all of the existing infrastructure, and then it shows how the 29 lots are laid out. There's the park area and parking area, and then on the far east would be the ponding basin by the cul-de-sac. So the setbacks that are different are along the bottom row, and I put what was approved previously in the middle, and then what the standard is, the normal standard at the top. So you can see what's being proposed is less than the city standard, but not as much less as what was previously approved at the site. We spent a lot of time with the applicant looking at these, getting the lots right, getting the homes just right on the lot so that front yards and backyards could be maximized as much as possible. And we think that this is these modifications are going to work for them. Because some of the sites are quite small, the homes are basically what's called pre-plotted, meaning that there's one specific home planned for each lot. So there's 4 different types of homes. I'm going to go through those in a second. But in some new development projects, a home buyer can go in and pick which home they want to put on the lot. In this case, because of the tightness of the site, there's only one home that's going to fit on each lot. And so that if you want that type of home, there's only certain places that it's going to be built. So this then shows what is going to change in the subdivision ordinance in order to codify the modified setbacks. You can see the previous project, which was also approved by a PUD, would be taken out of the zoning ordinance, and then we would add the new one into it. And then
Wait, I'm sorry, could you go back to
Sure.
the previous slide? I was still trying to understand that a little bit. So the 10 feet to living space and 18 to the garage. So that means the garage is going to be set back 8 feet from the front of the house. Yes.
Yes, the homes are designed so the garages are set back farther than the house. So there's probably like a front bedroom that sticks out in the front of the house.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So then this shows the tentative subdivision map. So this shows how the lots would be laid out. So this map would eliminate the lots that are there now and then replace them with these 29 lots plus the 3 outlots. And then these slides show the model homes. There's 4 plans. Plan 1 is a 3-bedroom. There's 2 possible facades and it has a 2-car garage. Plan 2 is also a 3-bedroom with 2 possible facades and also has a 2-car garage.
Is that 2-car garage standard size?
Yes. Plan 3 has Plan 3 has 2 bedrooms. There's only 1 possible facade treatment. It has a 1-car garage, but there's only 1 of these homes that's going to be planned for this neighborhood because it's a pretty small house and there's 1 lot that is quite small.
Is that the square footage, the 867?
Yes.
Wow.
And then Plan 4 is a 3-bedroom home. There's 2 possible facade treatments and it's a little bit wider 1-car garage. So this shows all the elevations side by side. The developer did, after these sketches were prepared, they did decide to put in carriage doors on the garage, carriage style garage doors. So there's a picture of the carriage door style to show how that would change the look slightly.
How about landscaping? What's the developer going to put in as far as landscape?
There's going to be landscaping along Vine Street.
In front of how about front yards?
The front yards will be landscaped. Back on Vine Street, as you probably know, there's the city is working on a bike and walking trail along the golf course along Vine Street right now, and that would tie into this neighborhood. And so we're having the sidewalk along Vine Street widened to 10 feet so that that trail then can continue to the north end of this site. The park area is going to be will be landscaped and have, you know, park amenities, a small play area for small children, and the parking area provides additional off-lot parking because the we're going to allow street parking only on one side of the street because of the width of the streets. So unlike the previous project, which was an HOA project, meaning that the homeowners had an association where they owned the street, they owned the park, they owned the parking area. In this project, the street and the park and the parking area would become city property and city right of way, and the maintenance of these areas would be funded through the Public Facilities Maintenance District.
Could it still be an HOA or no?
They're not proposing an HOA.
For the PFMDs are pretty well self-sufficient though, and they have built-in inflators to account for inflation over time.
So that's what this would be.
Yes.
Yes.
The southerly lots do back onto the golf course, and so those rear yards will have the same type of wrought iron fencing that other golf course neighborhoods have.
And so everything else would resemble the other golf course neighborhoods? Because the roofing,
No.
No. The roof's-
Yeah, the planning
roof's not
commission's
tile.
recommendation on the roofing was to not require tile roofs and to not require stucco walls. So those would be two things that would be a little different than the other neighborhoods.
The stucco wall was for the block wall though, correct?
Correct.
Okay, not the actual house.
Not the
would be
house, no,
stucco.
not the house,
On the
for the
outside.
block walls. I think that's all I have. I know if you have other questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but that's the end of my report.
I have some questions. This is, it was previously for 39 lots, right?
Correct.
And it was moved down to 29. GJ Gardner, they just finished the development just north of Iona.
That's correct, yes.
How many homes was that? About 43, 44?
That sounds about right.
35.
Okay,
35?
35.
Okay. We're looking at roughly 100 cars right there. And then we just moved we just finished the Walton Castano extension on the golf course, right?
Yeah.
That was probably another 35 homes, maybe. I don't know. That's another 70 cars. Probably the worst street in this city is Iona. As far as lighting, no sidewalks. My concern has to do with public safety and with this development and any more expansion in that area without the city taking care of any of those roads or the developers contributing to those as well. The other thing I am concerned about is we're using the PUD as a method to get around our city standards for housing. I'm going to vote no on this at all levels. And that's part of it. I ran on making sure that we have sufficient standards for adequate housing.
So
And-
if I could just make a quick recommendation before saying how you're going to vote, we would need to go through the public hearing process and hear testimony
Well, that's
first.
fine. I'm just
Okay, thank
expressing
you.
my opinion. Damn it. So, and I'm very serious about that. I think that's one of the things as council members, we need to make sure that we not allow a public PUD to be used as a way to avoid the standards that we've set up for our city. Also, when we talk about the bike trail that's on Vine Street, it feeds into Vine and Iona, right? Which is really not an aligned intersection. If you look at it properly, right? So we're going to put a bike trail into a non-aligned intersection that really has no lighting at that intersection at all. All it has is a stop sign in north and south on Vine. And there's no sidewalk on either side of Iona to connect with. So all we're doing is putting a bike or a walking path just to go south on this, on the golf course, right? And to connect to the back part of the, I don't even know if the bike path goes all the way down to the opening of the Walter Castano development back there, or no?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Yes, it does. It'll go from this development all the way to the, I guess that's the 17th green back there by Wathan Castanos.
Right, yeah, I think that's it.
Yes.
So the parking area also, so if you're fortunate enough to get one of these homes, you may not be able to park in front of your home. That's correct?
On the street or in the
On the
driveway?
street, yeah. Where normally you would park your car, you can't do that. You have to go to a parking area.
No, it is a tighter than typical neighborhood.
So that's correct, yes.
Yes.
Okay. And a couple times you mentioned in your report correctly, and I appreciate that, that the not only the report but the Planning Commission indicated that this wasn't consistent with our standards. When you talked about the roof and the stucco applications, et cetera. My concern is that we're also asking the city to pick up this property and to maintain it. And it just baffles me that we would have a developer want to develop an 867 square foot home and put into this development. And the other thing that's concerning to me too is J.G. Gardner just finished that development north of Iona. Were they asked to put in a kiddie park there or anything like that? Or a toddler park, whatever you called it?
No, they bought an existing map that had already been laid out. So that neighborhood design had been designed a number of years ago, even before I started here.
Okay.
You know what, Mr. Warnick, I do agree with a lot that you said, and they, I don't know, it feels like a lot of things that were changed regardless of, what was said or whatever. I kind of feel like we should table this or maybe bring it back at another time. So, because I personally want to do a little bit more research on it.
And as far as public safety, I'd appreciate, even if we left tonight, just take a ride down Iona and just take a look. If it wasn't for the moving company and the natural gas station there and a dairy truck line, wouldn't be any lighting on that street at all.
No, you know what? I
No
went out there
sidewalks
and I actually saw this today, and the street lights are up. Shockingly, there's street lights in this.
Oh, in the
subdivision.
development.
Yeah.
I'm talking about on Iona.
No, I understand what you're talking about. You're talking about down Vine and
just down Vine.
Vine's the only way to get into this place.
That's right, and Iona.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're going to get into either development, either the one north of Iona where this developer is, and this newer one south, you've got to come down Iona. That's my point. We're putting about another 130 cars on Iona, and it's really it's an underdeveloped thoroughfare, and it's not it's not well lit.
No.
And that contributes to its not being safe. And so those are my concerns, but I would be happy to
Table it.
table it. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any discussion on it?
Well, I would like to ask, is the developer here? Can I ask the developer a question?
We'd probably want to open the public hearing to do that.
Oh, okay, let's do that. Cool.
So, I mean, aside from that, does anybody else have anything? No, seeing none. Okay, so we can go ahead and open it up to the public.
So, council, you actually have a couple of options here. If this is a public hearing, so you could go forward with the public hearing and then close it and then continue the matter, or you can just continue the matter right now if you want, but it has to be to a date certain in order to avoid renoticing fees with the paper for the ordinance portion. So your discretion, if you want to start taking testimony, you can. Another option is you can start taking testimony and just not close the public hearing and continue the public hearing to a date certain as well.
Okay.
How would we do that?
Okay, so I think what I heard is you want to go ahead and open the public hearing, then do not close it. Someone would need to make a motion to continue the public hearing to a date certain, so you need a specific date, and then you save money on renoticing.
Yes.
Okay. So would you guys like to say something or?
You could open the public hearing.
Yeah, I did. It's open to public hearing.
Okay.
Okay, so I did receive a number of written comments to be read into the record. So the first one is from Cedric Fuentes, and it reads, "Hello, my name is Cedric Fuentes, and currently me and my wife are awaiting GJ Gardner to start their project for the Fairway Courtyard so that we may try and get a brand new home for our growing family. We hope you guys will approve them this upcoming month so that we may begin our home buying process. Thank you very much." The next one is from Raymond Juarez, and it reads, "Hi, I am currently a resident of Lemoore and have been for the last 13 years. Due to the current housing market, it is very difficult for new home buyers to get into a home. My son has put multiple bids in the last few months and no luck. My son has offered $15,000 over asking and still no luck. I think the Fairway Courtyard project should be approved to help out with the current need for affordable housing in the city of Lemoore." Next one is from Suzanne Miranda. "To whom it may concern, I would love to purchase a home for my mom in the Fairway Courtyard. Please approve this project as soon as possible. We need new homes. We have many buyers and no inventory. Sincerely, Suzanne Miranda." The next one is from Eric Juarez. "Hi, City Council. My name is Eric Juarez. I am currently emailing you on the new subdivision from GJ Gardner Homes that has yet been approved. Due to the current housing market in Lemoore, it has been a really hard time over the last year for my family and I to obtain a house that we could call home. I believe by approving the subdivisions, GJ Gardner Homes would be able to create affordable homes for families just like mine. Thank you for your time and reading this email. I hope the city and GJ Gardner can come to an agreement." The next one is from Eva Santos. "Good day, City of Lemoore. As a resident of Lemoore for 11 years now and have been renting a house since 2015, GJ Gardner Builder is my company of choice to help me achieve my goal to purchase a house. I have been on the waiting list since October 2020 and still willing to wait, hoping that the City of Lemoore will be consider approving the project of GJ Gardner to start building houses for residents in need. Thank you and hope to hear from you soon. Sincerely, Eva Santos." This one is from Gary Thompson. "To City Council of Lemoore. Good day, City of Lemoore. GJ Gardner is my choice of company to build my dream house. I am a home buyer that has been on the waiting list since October 2020, hoping that the City Council will finally approve the GJ Gardner to start building houses for residents of Lemoore. Thank you for your consideration." And I do have one more on my email. And it reads from Mark Gonzalez. "Hi, my name is Marco Gonzalez, and I would like to voice my support for the approval of GJ Gardner Homes in Lemoore. I would like to see more affordable homes being built here in Lemoore and would like to ask that our City Council approve this project to move forward. Thank you, Marco Gonzalez." That is all I have.
Marissa, do you know the dates on those emails?
I received them yesterday and a few of them today.
Yesterday and today. Thank you.
Mr. Orthy, you have a question?
Well, I had a lot of questions before hearing the letter, so I didn't know if there was really a demand to fill an 800 square foot home. That's pretty small home, but. Point of order, you open it for public hearing. It should be for the public.
Okay. So stand by, sir, if you would, go ahead and.
My name is Jeff Kreider. Good evening, Council and Mayor. I came up here because he said he had a question for me.
Okay, yeah. So would you like to hear his question?
Yes. I would.
Okay. Mr. Orth?
I didn't realize there was that big of an influx to buy an 800 square foot home. It's really, really small, and I don't know.
So there's only one of those,
Yeah,
and all the rest of them are, the other sizes. And that's just because that one lot, it's the only thing that would fit on there. I mean, we pushed it out to as far as we could do it. But yes, we get calls, I'm not gonna say every day, but many times a week for affordable houses.
okay.
I have a question for you as well, or a couple actually. During the planning commission meeting, I believe somebody had specified that there was over 100 people on the waiting list for this development. That's correct?
Yeah, we just went through that list and it's dwindled down probably, say, about 45 or so now.
There's only 45 on the waiting
Yeah.
list now due to time that it's taken?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you happen to know right off how many homes would fit in that area if we did the standard setbacks? How many homes we would lose if we did that? From I believe it's 29.
I don't know. We were trying to work around the water there, the power, trying to finagle all the different challenges that were there, trying to make it fit what was there.
Gotcha.
We still have to redo, some driveways and stuff like that anyway.
You mean there's currently driveways out there?
Sorry, approaches. The sidewalk is there
Okay.
and the approach. Yeah, that.
Okay, can uneducated question? Can I remove my whatever and just go with it and let the chips fall where they may, I guess is the word? If I had a motion to table it, I don't.
I just have, from a council's point of view, here's my concern as a council member. In the report that we're getting from the city, when we talk about the tentative map subdivision, the streets servicing the area are Vine Street and Iona Avenue. Local streets are proposed as public streets. They will not comply with current city standards. The city engineer will accept the non-standard streets because they are already partially constructed. To change the project to meet city standard would make the project economically infeasible.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. So we have to change our standards to basically put in a home that doesn't meet the city standards. And one of the things, in my opinion, that Lemoore appears in many ways to be an unincorporated city.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
No, okay.
Yeah.
I don't. But
Well, because we have allowed developments to occur, and we've allowed your development to be purchased without putting some constraints on the newer development that you had, like to put a recreational area in
Mr. Warnick,
for the students.
do you have a question for him?
Yeah, so my question is, how does it become economic feasible for you? What is the minimum number of homes that you can put in on that lot?
Well, we're right on the edge of us not, the planning commission, I think we met with, helped us because we're right on the edge of it not being feasible. We tried to get more, I thought we were going to get more lots out of that and we didn't. We're right there on the edge. I mean, I've talked to the person that Coker is the one who owns that, who first started that project, and, about backing out of it because we're just right on the edge. Costs have gone up incredibly.
I understand that, but you know, the materials you're putting on this house, I don't think they're gonna last 25 years.
What materials?
The roofing and the siding on the house.
It's stucco on the walls, and the roofs will last 30 years.
In landscaping,
We've provided a landscape drawing as part of our submittal package.
just for the front yards,
Yes,
nothing in the back.
no. We offered that as an option to the home buyers if they would like. Sometimes they will have us do it, and sometimes they don't.
And you know what the soil is out there, heavy alkali.
Mhm.
What are you doing in terms of garage slabs and things of that nature for these homes?
As far,
Typical what you'd put in a regular standard home in terms of
no, the engineers design all the slabs for these houses.
any barriers, you know, plastic barriers,
Yep.
anything like that.
Yep, we put vapor barriers between the ground and the cement.
Marissa, you said you had another notification?
Jennifer Solis,
Okay.
you wanna mute yourself?
Yeah, if that's okay, am I good?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Thanks. I had a lot of the similar questions, but when viewing the planning commission, the builder is reminding us that we're building across from a water waste treatment plant. And so I know that it's not ideal, but it sounded, and the gentleman speaking now is kind of making the same point, like this is, the best option. I do have a problem with in lieu fees, and I don't know if there's a way to possibly change that. And I know we're also trying to do the bike lane, that will take up space. And so those are things that I'm like, should we rework that to make the lots a little bit differently? And then my last comment was on the HOA. And you guys are definitely used to reading large documents like this for the site plan review and things like that. But I was a little confused because in the document, and I want to say it was like on page 66, it's like HOA will take care of the, fees for sites 30, 31, and 32. And I was like, okay, they keep talking about the HOA isn't involved. And so maybe it's just, I'm not reading it correctly, but I just want to make sure that is reviewed. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. So seeing no more public comment. Oh, Mr. Reed.
Tom Reed, Bar Avenue, Lemoore. I have to agree with Mr. Gornick. If we change from the standard, then we have no standard. I think it's pretty important that we do stick with what we have. If we're going to make an exception, we need to change the standard to meet the new. I don't think that's a good option. But it sounds like there is a definite need for low-cost housing in the city. And I know there's some other developments that have been approved and not yet built. And my question would be, when are those going to be built? Thanks.
Okay, so any more public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to council and.
Yeah, so this is about timing for you as a council. So if someone makes a motion to continue it, you see if you get a second and then you take a vote. If you don't get that motion, you can close the public hearing and someone could make a motion. It's all about what you want to do as individual council members and see if you get the second and see if you get the votes.
Council, before you do that, if I could make one correction and one comment. Earlier, I believe we said that the new path was going to go from Caddy all the way to Iona. It stops at Green. So it stops, the pathway stops at the entrance to this, to the Fairview homes, I believe there is. So it doesn't, you continue on, you'll hit Iona, but the new sidewalk itself does not go all the way through. And then, the road that's there originally when this was built, I believe over a decade ago, and the infrastructure was put in, it was not going to be a public road. It was going to be a private road. So the developer started off in that direction. That is why the road is it was designed for private, which met the standard at the time, but now that it's going public, it does not meet the standard, to Mr. Gornick's point.
So if I could ask a question, council, was this designated as affordable housing, this project? You would want to speak in the mic.
This is not grant funded and it's not an affordable housing project as far as the state funding goes.
And why is that? Why wasn't it designated as that?
It doesn't have grant funds.
But I
So
guess why
we
is
don't
it?
call it an affordable housing project. However, it may be, the homes may be sold at the lower rate that could be considered affordable, but it's not an affordable housing project.
Could it be that if it was designated as a state affordable housing project, it would have other standards it would have to meet?
I'm not sure about the standards, whether
Would the
we have to
developer
meet.
know
It
the
would-
answer to that question? You don't know the answer? Okay,
It was not submitted as an affordable housing project.
right.
And the reason I asked that, council, is because there may be certain California laws that require certain things that I'm not prepared to discuss out here with you. So again, one option could be to continue this public hearing and direct me to look at that if you would like.
Okay, well, so seeing no more questions, any motion?
I'd like to make a motion to continue the hearing. I'd rather take the time to get answers than to kill the deal altogether.
And are you continuing it to a date certain?
What date, Mayor? Yes.
Well, your next meeting is April 6th, so that's entirely up to you. It's your motion.
So that seems like a doable April 6th.
It's 3 weeks from today.
That date.
Okay,
I'd second that motion.
okay, so Mrs. Matthews,
Aye, sorry.
Mr. Gornick,
Yes,
Mr. Orth,
Yes.
Mr. Cheney.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. So we will continue discussion on this on the 6th. Okay, so moving on to new business and seeing none. Brief city council reports and requests. Mr. Orth.
I don't know. Thank you, city staff, for all the hard work. You guys are in the process of negotiating with their contracts. You guys did a good job so far. Looks good. Thank you for the police and fire. And let's all stay safe. Get this coronavirus done and we can go back to normal. Thank you.
Mr. Gornick.
just thanks to everybody. Enjoyed the comments today. And Nathan, I appreciate the update on what's going on with on your calendar. That's helpful to know. Thank you.
Mr. Cheney.
Want to thank Ann for that wonderful presentation that she did earlier this evening. And it was hard, a little difficult to follow along with, but it was a good presentation. And that's all I have.
And Mrs. Matthews.
I just want to remind everybody about the downtown Easter celebration that's happening April 3rd from 11 to 2 p.m. downtown. There's going to be lots of stuff, $5 family photos at the gazebo by Newman Garcia. Lots of fun things down there for the kids to do. Also, if you haven't heard already, Gary's Antiques is going out of business. They're having a 50% off sale, and their last day of business will be April 3rd, just in case people don't know about that. And Bird Street Brewing, I heard, is opening back up. So if that's your thing, yay.
Yay for them.
Also, I wanted to thank city staff. They've been working really hard recently. There's a lot of stuff going on. And yeah, they're working their tails off. Also, thank you to fire department, police department. You guys are awesome in everything that you do. Appreciate you guys. And as far as all those SBs and ABs, and it's gonna be challenging, that's for sure. But just rest assured that there's things going on to try to hopefully help mitigate that and make it less of an impact as possible. Hopefully, I mean, there's going to be an impact, but KWRA, we're going to do our best to lessen those. So lots of work going on over there too, which I have a meeting next week, and I'm sure this will be a topic of discussion again. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. And so I have a question. Did anybody get Dwight's last name? I never did get it. Young. Good. Thank you.
Right on.
So
ask what kind of restaurant it was.
Yeah.
Council, just as an FYI, I sent you communication regarding that. The city responded to his request back on 2/25. So it's in your emails.
Okay.
Then we will reach out again tomorrow to make sure he receives the email.
Well, still, I'd like to thank Mr. Young for showing up and Mr. Reed for showing up. The public is here and in force.
Yes.
And I would also like to thank, Amanda and Chief for being here today and their wonderful presentations. Ms. Hallwell, all your work, all the city staff. Thank you, everybody. And we're adjourned.